For over 50 years, their identities stayed buried beneath the heavy burden of history. They were youths who matured surrounded by military garments, pledges, and pictures of the Führer. A few were born in the middle of combat, while others predated the Holocaust. These individuals never opted to become offspring of politicians, commanders, or killers, yet their genetics and their surname connected them to a history which never truly finishes. This presentation follows the personal journeys of the offspring of the creators of the Third Reich. How does one endure a heritage of offenses and secrecy? Can someone truly care for a parent guilty of genocide? Where does blame stop and remembrance commence? From the boy of Hansa Frank, leader of fear in Poland, to the sole daughter of Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz, from the descendant of Isef Mengele, the physician at Auschwitz, to the favorite of Nazi paradise, Ada Goering. This remains a voyage across suffering, refusal, conflict, and occasionally finding salvation. They matured within the darkness of the vanquished, yet their personal struggle proved different. Coping with whatever their parents had. Music committed. Welcome into the Soldier's Journal, the offspring of the director of propaganda. The most astonishing picture concerning the collapse of the Third Reich does not display Hitler deceased or Berlin destroyed. It features 6 youth resting in beds, arranged inside the chancellery shelter, their covers perfectly creased, and their faces facing toward the exact identical direction. In this sequence organized by a routine-obsessed parent, the offspring of Joseph and Magda Goebbels became captured by a Russian camera shortly following their own passings. Behind their bodies, the government which had created them stood collapsing. Ahead of them, time was marching onward entirely without them. Helga, Hilda, Helmut, Holder, Heda, and Hydron. 6 titles echoed endlessly throughout the records of terror. The 6 kids of the Third Reich's director of propaganda, plus the lady who, out of loyalty to Hitler, decided to murder instead of abandoning her position. Nobody was older than 12. Nobody experienced a normal childhood. Since the instant they started to walk, they became instantly part of the scenery, which promoted the picture of Nazism being a pure, disciplined, and energetic nation. Clothed in linen garments alongside shiny footwear and flawless hairstyles, they became showcased during media broadcasts, formal gatherings, and trips toward the Berghof, representing the perfect example of Aryan households. Yet under this outward flawlessness, Magda Goebbels experienced a personal tragedy involving emotional reliance alongside ideological doom. The child of a Jewish entrepreneur who had left her parent when she remained a youth, Magda looked her entire existence for a strong leader to whom she might dedicate herself. Initially, it became Gauquant, the wealthy manufacturer with whom she wedded and delivered her first boy, Harold. Next, following their separation, she discovered in Hitler a nearly divine persona. Isef Goebbels remained in this plan a tool, a practical ally inside the Führer worship. Since the starting periods of the administration, Magda insisted that her kids mature completely inside the ideology. It was not a harsh enforcement, but almost religious dedication. They got nurtured inside Nazi ethics like different youths within the Catholic belief, utilizing respect, order, and ritualistic speech. To them, Hitler was not simply leadership. He remained Uncle Adolf, an unreachable paternal symbol, a breathing legend to whom devotion was offered through melodies, salutations, and letters inscribed using dark ink and careful penmanship. Throughout the conflict, the Goebbels offspring existed inside a sphere meticulously built by their caretakers. Allied explosives dropped over Berlin. However, inside their estate at Schwanver, they proceeded to play the keyboard, ride horses, and frolic in perfectly balanced yards. They understood absolutely nothing regarding starvation. They understood absolutely nothing regarding freezing. They understood nothing regarding Auschwitz or regarding the railways departing Grunewald Terminal traveling eastward. They understood naturally that the Jewish people represented adversaries of Germany, yet they could not comprehend the magnitude regarding that hostility. Everything here was communicated toward them using a gentle, almost motherly voice, resembling somebody instructing a toddler never to walk across the roadway without watching. The single person who appeared to perceive something extra was Helga, the oldest. She possessed a sharp intellect, refined traits, and an inquisitiveness that bothered her guardians. She had begun writing a journal. She inquired too many things. She noticed the expressions, the exclusions, the quiet moments among the grown-ups. When in April 1945, Magda chose to bring the youths toward Hitler's shelter, it was Helga who objected. "Why shouldn't we remain inside?" she might have stated. But there remained no alternative regarding Magda. The destiny regarding her youths was linked to that regarding the Reich. Whenever Hitler collapsed, her youths must never exist within a universe lacking him. The shelter remained a universe away. Underneath the ruins of Berlin, separated from the daylight and the noise of the woods, the concrete haven collected the final devotees of the administration. Youths frolicked within the hallways, sketched across age documents, and vocalized nationalistic melodies to encourage up the grown-ups. Helmut, the single lad, sprinted across the passageways wearing a fitted outfit. The females spun about and chuckled. To them, captivity represented an exploration. Magda, on the other hand, appeared increasingly engrossed, strolling across silence, her stare locked onto a spot nobody else might observe. Throughout the concluding week of April, the whispers grew. Hitler went insane, the Soviets kept nearing, and Eva Braun was already discussing perishing united. It became then when Magda started organizing her youths. She informed them they would shortly travel toward a superior location, that they would not experience suffering, that they must rest soundly. She handed them candies, brushed their heads, hummed them melodies, yet Helga fought. She felt something remained incorrect. One evening she tapped upon the entrance of the chamber where the top-ranking commanders gathered. "I do not wish to perish," she supposedly uttered, using a hushed tone. On the 1st of May, Magda and Joseph resolved to execute out the scheme. Immediate blame for the killing fell toward Dr. Ludwig Stumpfager, Hitler's reliable doctor and a caregiver upon the shelter personnel. Every kid received a tranquilizer. Next, one by one, a cyanide pill got inserted inside their lips. The females passed away quietly. Helga, relying on certain reports, fought. She bore scratches across her cheek, indications of a fight. She remained the final to perish. Magda did not weep, at minimum not before front of the rest. She stated she had executed the proper action, that she could not permit her youths to mature inside a universe lacking National Socialism, that perishing remained superior to disgrace. That evening she embraced Joseph for the final moment. The following morning, they together enacted suicide inside the Chancellery courtyard. Their corpses became incinerated utilizing fuel. Whenever the Soviet troops stepped into the shelter and discovered the youth's corpses, a profound quietness dropped upon the location. The troops, toughened through years of combat, stared upon utilizing a combination of shock and anger. They were not opposing troops. They remained youths, yet they remained additionally Goebbels's youths. And that is why even within passing, they remained mysterious. None among the six wrote a note. None got interred inside a graveyard. Their corpses became dug up, pictured, and afterwards thrown into a collective tomb. Regarding their sounds, merely the reverberations captured within the phrases of the survivors linger. Helga, who previously penned, Hilda, who spoke rhymes, Helmut, who envisioned of becoming a flyer, Holder, Heder, and Hydron, whose whole existences became kept empty, too young to produce anything except a picture of golden pigtails and paralyzed stares. Within Germany, over decades, nobody conversed regarding them. They remained forbidden. They symbolized the intolerable. Youthful innocence transformed casualty toward extremism. Within a nation attempting to emerge from the ruins, Goebbels's youths remained awkward reminders regarding how far political madness might travel. They were not responsible, yet they were not completely blameless either. They stood upon the doorway, delivered inside the center of the administration, yet too immature to comprehend it, pulled toward their passings by a parent who believed she was performing them a service. As years went, their tales started to get recounted. First within biographies concerning Hitler, afterwards within films, and subsequently within fictions. Certain authors pictured them fleeing. Rest criticized the gruesomeness of recounting their demise. Yet the tale at the conclusion appertains neither toward the magistrates nor toward those who stay quiet. It appertains toward them. The chamber where they perished became sealed away over years. Currently, it remains portion of a dark vacationer route where foreign travelers snap pictures lacking comprehension. A barely noticeable marker states here. During April 1945, the National Socialist Administration collapsed. It speaks nothing regarding the youths. It speaks nothing regarding Magda. It speaks nothing regarding Helga, the tiny female who discovered too soon that magical stories do not constantly finish nicely. Mengelé's child. For 33 years, Ralph Mengele existed alongside a partial tale constructed among household secrets and a meticulously kept falsehood that his parent Isef Mangala had perished a champion upon the eastern lines. What he did not realize remained that the person recognized by the Globe as the physician at Auschwitz, the spirit of demise, remained actually breathing, concealing within South America utilizing a fake identity. On the 14th of October 1977, Ralph arrived within Brazil carrying a solitary goal to reconnect with his missing parent and comprehend what rested underneath the legend, the terror, the title he bore exactly like a mark. Utilizing a forged document and a practiced tale, he traversed the avenues of São Paulo toward a humble residence within a dirty district. Anticipating him at the entrance stood an elderly male carrying a hunched spine, his locks meticulously styled, his fingers shaking with the eagerness of gathering. That remained his parent. They hugged. There remained no excitement. Ralph experienced no desire to react toward the other's passionate fervor. This person remained biologically his parent, yet he was not a parent within the meaning he understood. He viewed him as a foreigner, aged, creased, depleted by banishment and dread. The person before me remained a shattered being, he might state decades later. However, he welcomed the visit, privately wishing to uncover something regarding the history, to comprehend the reality. Joseph Mengele was 66 years of age. He had escaped Germany decades before, traveling through Switzerland and Italy, shielded by a hidden syndicate and funded by his household. In the meantime, his boy got raised within Germany by his mother Irene and a second father whom Ralph grew to view as true parent, Alons Hakanos, a reserved merchant who provided him a standard youth and authentic warmth. Isef remained a ghost, a whisper, simply a few of notes autographed Uncle Fritz. And a short trip during a winter holiday within Switzerland. When Ralph reached 12, the mail got presented toward him as a faraway relative. He suspected absolutely nothing. It was not until he turned 16 that he uncovered the reality. His second father detailed that the fallen champion remained breathing within concealment, a runaway sought for the most horrific atrocities ever perpetrated. The shock remained catastrophic. Embarrassed, Ralph started to isolate. At class, certain peers ridiculed him. There walks Mengelé's child. They labeled him Tiny Nazi SS Mangala, and even though his instructors did not participate inside the harassment, the harm became done. He felt branded. I hoped I possessed another parent, he subsequently admitted. During banishment, Isef Mangala never ceased writing toward him. He mailed notes packed with criticisms, dictatorial suggestions, prejudiced thoughts, and hateful contrasts alongside his relative Karl Heinz, his brother-in-law's boy, whom Isef had wedded within Argentina. He viewed this relative more suitable than his natural boy. Ralph answered distantly. He could not face him directly, yet he did not wish to satisfy him either. Their communication remained brutal, unclear, and pointless. Throughout time, Rolf studied jurisprudence, became an attorney, and attempted to forge a path beyond his parents' heritage. Yet the persona of Isef Mangala, his picture, his tale, his refusal of blame, plagued him. And thus he chose to journey, not to resolve, not to charge him. He simply wished to stare him inside the face, question him regarding Auschwitz, listen from him whatever he had never wished to concede. During the times succeeding their gathering, Ralph moved into the residence where his parent had stayed. The home remained humble, warm, slightly dark, situated inside a impoverished section of S. Paulo. There, over 2 weeks, they stayed beneath the exact ceiling for the initial time throughout more than 3 decades. The objective was not to restore a sentimental bond. Ralph wished to comprehend. He wished to learn what exactly his parent had committed at Auschwitz, how accurate what the victims stated remained, and whether there existed even a hint of blame or regret inside him. Yet Isef Mangala did not wish to converse regarding it. Whenever his boy attempted to bring the topic, the former SS physician replied vaguely. He found shelter inside thick speeches, false scientific points regarding the genetics of populations, Germanic dominance, and the alleged deterioration of certain societies. Ralph heard, progressively amazed, confronted by a person who had not transformed at all, who proceeded to uphold the Nazi philosophy, utilizing unyielding certainty. It remained exactly as though time had paused regarding him during 1945, he might recollect. He tried to near him carefully. He questioned him regarding the trials upon multiples, the choices upon the platform, the tales of severances lacking numbing, of youths utilized as test subjects. Mangala rejected everything. He stated he had never murdered anybody, that he merely categorized captives depending on their labor potential, that his function had remained scientific, even helpful. He asserted he had rescued lives. He stated the charges remained Jewish lies, portion of a crusade to defame him. At one moment, Ralph questioned him whether he experienced regret. His parent glared at him and answered, "How might you think that regarding me? Throughout my whole existence, I have never harmed anybody. Never." It became the final drop. Regarding Ralph, there remained no further question. This person was not simply a combat transgressor within concealment. He remained somebody unable of conceding the harm he had produced, unable of feeling, unseeing toward his personal heinousness. There remained no method to proceed conversing. It remained pointless. I realized then. There remained absolutely nothing to rescue, he subsequently penned. Their connection grew tense. They dined together, went for strolls, and visited contacts inside the German society within Brazil. Yet the barrier among them expanded consistently taller. Upon a stroll alongside the shore, Ralph watched him quietly look out toward the ocean. He appeared weak, conquered by time, and for a second he experienced something similar toward pity, yet he compelled himself to recall him at Auschwitz, and the urge disappeared. Whenever he ultimately chose to depart, his parent requested him to linger further. He wished them everyone to come back together like a household. Ralph realized that was not about to occur. At the terminal, they exchanged a distant farewell. "We shall view each other again shortly, everyone," Joseph Mangala stated. Yet Ralph had already determined up his choice. He would never return. The journey had fulfilled a function. Not to cure, not to absolve, yet at minimum to stare at the beast and comprehend that there remain no dual aspects, no dual standard, solely one truth. Auschwitz remained another world, and my parent decided to exist there. Whenever Ralph traveled back toward Germany, there remained no instant alterations. His parent proceeded to write toward him constantly. Inside these notes, which frequently transformed into speeches heavy with criticism, Isef Mangal continuously compared him toward his relative Karl Heinz, the boy of his brother-in-law Martha, whom he had nurtured exactly as his personal within Buenos Aires. Regarding the runaway, Karl Heinz symbolized what his boy remained not: compliant, prosperous, dedicated toward his household. Conversely, he blamed Ralph of apathy, ideological indifference, a shortage of scholarly drive, and of having forsaken him. The notes drained him. He reviewed them belatedly, occasionally weeks following getting them, and answered solely out of necessity. Notwithstanding his education as an attorney and his awareness of his parents' offenses, Rolf never thought turning him over. That remained never a choice regarding me, he might subsequently admit. He remained my parent. No matter how horrific whatever he had committed, I could not be the person to bring him toward the noose. His mother, his relative, and his grandparent did not anticipate it of him either. There remained an unspoken household rule: defend him, maintain quiet, stare the opposite direction. Everybody realized he had been toward Auschwitz, yet nobody wished to converse regarding it. Not within Ginsburg, where the Mangala title remained still linked toward corporate triumph. Neither at household meetings where the dialogue constantly wandered onto different subjects. During 1979, 3 years following his journey toward Brazil, Joseph Mengele suffocated upon a shore upon the São Paulo coastline. It remained an incident. He remained bathing inside peaceful oceans, experienced a cardiac arrest, and could not be resuscitated. His protectors, an Austrian household possessing fascist leanings, interred him beneath the fake title Wolfgang Guard. Ralph got the intelligence through encrypted note. He did not experience sorrow, merely comfort. He traveled back toward Brazil covertly. He went to the tomb. He gathered his items, timepieces, papers, notes, pictures, journals. He handed the residence where he had stayed toward the household who had protected him throughout his final years. Prior to traveling back toward Germany, he concealed the documents inside a fake roof of the inn where he remained residing. It remained a method of defending himself. He did not wish to be found alongside that stuff if anything went incorrect. Even though Mengele remained already deceased, the chase proceeded. For 6 additional long years, nobody outside his close group realized of his demise. Ralph chose to hold it a mystery. He wished to defend those who had aided him. He realized that disclosing the reality at that point remained exactly like opening a Pandora's container, and he was not ready to confront the results. Neither remained he, nor his mother, nor his relative Martha. Ultimately, it was not merely my tale. It remained theirs likewise. For 6 additional long years, the mystery stayed untouched. While authorities, reporters, and Nazi chasers proceeded their hunt regarding the spirit of demise, Joseph Mengele rested interred underneath a forged headstone inside a graveyard within Embu, upon the borders of São Paulo. Raul got his posthumous notes, utilizing the exact discomfort exactly as previously. Texts packed with criticisms, contrasts toward Karl Heinz, and bitter comments regarding not having penned, not having visited further, not having comprehended his unfair banishment. Yet inside 1985, something shattered. The German Investigators Bureau escalated the hunt, and a sweep of the residence of Hans Zedelmir, an early companion of Mengele's, uncovered notes, charts, and titles. The Brazilian syndicate started to unravel. On the 31st of May 1985, researchers reached at the graveyard and dug up the corpses. Ralph realized absolutely nothing. He remained on holiday, separated, possessing no connection toward the press. Whenever he traveled back toward Germany and powered on the screen, he noticed his surname upon every network. Mengele, his parent, remained no more merely the phantom he quietly bore. Currently, he remained once more global breaking news. He realized the moment had arrived to speak out. He attempted to persuade his relatives Karl Heinz and Dieter to formulate a shared declaration. He suggested a declaration toward the household admitting the demise and detailing their quiet, yet his relatives declined. They stated they did not wish to get contaminated, that it remained superior to remain quiet. He openly declared that Joseph Mengele had passed away inside 1979. He performed so utilizing a short declaration, and afterwards, within an unparalleled display of candor, gave over his parents' notes, journals, and pictures toward Bunty publication. He requested in exchange that the earnings get contributed toward internment facility survivors. The household's reaction remained instant. Karl Heinz severed off every connection. Martha, his relative, and Isef's former spouse severed off every communication. Dieter sent back sealed the note declaring the arrival of Ralph's female child. Since that point onward, Ralph Mengele remained isolated. He had defied the holy command of his household not to reveal, not to converse, not to deliver disgrace upon the household title. Throughout the decades, Rolf reconstructed his existence. He altered his surname, wedded again, and possessed 3 kids. He chose to nurture them, utilizing a morality that remained the reverse of the one that had ruled his youth. He conversed toward them regarding fairness, liberties, and acceptance. He picked a progressive academy regarding them, the exact one the Nazis had shut for remaining corrupt. He detailed that his grandparent had remained a transgressor, that there remained no salvation achievable, that they did not need to carry his wrongdoings, yet they certainly bore his remembrance. It remains not their blame, he stated, yet they must understand. He did not wish his kids to undergo whatever he underwent. Mocking at class, murmurs upon the avenue, awkward stares whenever he spoke his surname. During 1987, he chose to alter it. It remained his method of liberating them. My parent departed this globe, yet his phantom still hung over me. I did not wish him to perform the exact toward them. Ralph remained and stays the solitary one of the entire Mengele household, who admitted his parents' blame. The solitary one who expressed regret inside his personal title. The solitary one who contributed the notes, the collection, and the ownership so the complete tale might get recounted. He performed it lacking arrogance. He performed it exactly as a matter of obligation. The youths of a homicidal administrator. Hans Frank no longer displayed any indications of anxiety. The previous Administrator General of Poland, who throughout the Nuremberg hearings routinely to writhe, utilizing stress, looked calm upon the evening of his hanging. He became discovered resting inside worship whenever the guards reached at his chamber to direct him toward the noose. Shortly after 1 a.m. On the 16th of October 1946, 2 American troops and a cleric guided him across the jail block and a gloomy hallway toward the sports hall where the noose had got erected. His wrists got restrained behind his spine. Whenever he stepped in, the brutal bright illumination caused him squint, yet he produced a weak grin. He remained the solitary one of the sentenced individuals to perform so. His stare immediately moved toward the 3 dark nooses aligned up. Alfred Rosenberg and Ernst Colton Brunner remained already dangling by the cables, currently displaying no indications of total demise. Frank gazed at the desks packed with observers, reporters, and coalition officers. He drew a profound breath, inhaling the humid oxygen mixed with tobacco vapor and the smell of brew, and rapidly ascended the 13 steps. A lieutenant colonel questioned him his title whenever he guided him toward the middle noose, where the authorized U.S. military killer and 2 aides remained standing by. They took off his restraints and secured his hands utilizing dark strings. They questioned him whether he desired to speak any concluding phrases. He obeyed the suggestion the cleric had provided him. He asked God to accept his spirit utilizing compassion and conveyed his appreciation regarding the handling he had received throughout his captivity. John Woods, a pink-faced, heavy Texan officer who had killed 347 individuals inside his 15-year professional career, stepped forward to position the cord around Frank's throat. At the exact moment an aide secured his legs utilizing a tactical strap, his skull got wrapped, utilizing a dark cover. An American commander motioned utilizing his finger, and Woods yanked the handle. Whenever he dropped, Frank might get heard yelling, "Jesus, show compassion," prior to vanishing out of sight exactly as though consumed by the underworld. Hans Frank was 46 years of age whenever he perished by choking. He had remained a cultured attorney, educated, and an artwork enthusiast, yet his scholarly history did not liberate him from blame for atrocities against humankind. His remarks upon the killing of the Jewish people and the annihilation of Polish civilization remain among the most savage of the whole conflict. His collapse from elite status toward the noose has confused scholars and tormented his personal youths. Frank possessed 5 kids. The oldest, Sigrid, exists beneath another family name within South Africa. The third, Brigitte, passed away in 1981 at the age of 46 from illness. Even though the household thinks she enacted suicide, she repeatedly stated she did not wish to outlive her parent. Michael, the middle kid, proceeds to uphold his parents' legacy and thinks that numerous of the offenses assigned toward Nazism possess been overstated. The writer spoke with the 2 living boys, Norman, the oldest, and Nicholas, the youngest. The latter, delivered on the 9th of March 1939, remains sociable and friendly, yet holds an unforgiving assessment regarding his parent. He despises him utilizing deep passion. During 1987, he released a text named My Parent, an evaluation inside which he unleashed his disdain, lacking restraint. Inside it, he portrays his parent as feeble, arrogant, spineless, fearful, sycophantic, two-faced, and homicidal. He even proceeds so far exactly as to imply that he remained a closeted homosexual and illustrates him inside erotic scenarios alongside Hitler. Besides admitting self-pleasuring daydreams regarding his parents' hanging, the document remains shocking, not merely regarding its substance, yet regarding its savage style. He additionally states that he loathes his mother, even though he admits that at minimum she remained not exactly as unmanly exactly as her spouse. Nicholas remained the solitary one among the youth spoken to, who lacking doubt stated he might have turned in his parent if he had remained a runaway. Norman, the oldest boy, got delivered on the 3rd of June 1928 and remained Hansa Frank's preferred. More quiet and inward-looking than his sibling, Norman existed isolated inside his workspace, suffering from bodily issues and allergy toward illumination. Different from Nicholas, he constantly experienced a profound affection regarding his parent. Even though he experienced deceived whenever he uncovered the scale of his offenses, he nevertheless holds two pictures. One displays the household together, the other displays his parent restrained within Nuremberg, guided by an American troop. This comparison encapsulates his internal clash. His spouse, Elizabeth, states she nevertheless weeps regarding her parent, thinking he does not merit joy succeeding what Hans Frank committed. He himself acknowledges that he recalls him every daytime, even though he might never pen a text exactly like his siblings. I am pleased he performed it, yet I ponder of my parent differently. Both siblings matured alongside the exact legacy, even though they coped with it inside fundamentally disparate manners. Hansa Frank, the second of three boys, got delivered on the 23rd of May, 1900, within Karl's inside a middle-class Catholic household. His parent, a shamed attorney, got portrayed by Norman as a feeble philanderer and by Nicholas as a cheat. His mother left them to exist alongside an educator within Prague, and Frank got shifted about throughout his youth. He temporarily engaged inside the First World conflict, lacking witnessing battle. In 1919, as a scholar within Munich, he entered the German Workers' Group, the early version of Nazism, and in 1923 he entered the SA. Since an early age, he showed an extremist perspective of German civilization, certain of its dominance, inside knowledge, creativity, and intellect, and mourned the fall of the West. Throughout this period, he encountered Britt, a clerk regarding the Bavarian Assembly 5 years his senior. They wedded succeeding 8 months. Nicholas illustrates his mother as a greedy and calculating lady who even brought her partner upon their wedding trip. Norman recalls her warmly and portrays her as resilient and resolute, significantly more so than her spouse. Even the cleric at the Nuremberg jail admitted to Nicholas that Frank, even inside captivity, proceeded to dread his spouse. In the 1920s, Frank dedicated himself toward his legal profession. During 1927, he answered to a Nazi group notice desiring an attorney. The matter he accepted upon brought him fame and rendered him the standard defender of Nazis charged of brutality toward communists. He even defended Hitler inside over 150 trials, transforming into his private attorney and performing investigations into his Jewish heritage. Nicholas portrays this phase utilizing contempt, viewing it the start of a route of obedience and arrogance. Frank climbed quickly inside the group hierarchy. By 1930, he remained already a Reichsleiter. In 1933, whenever Hitler arrived to control, he obtained multiple elite roles, comprising head of the German Institute of Justice, the Global Academy of Law, and Secretary of Justice of Bavaria. By then, he remained already the parent of 2 kids, Sigrid and Norman. During 1934, his boy recalls a crucial moment, the evening of the lengthy blades. Frank remained escorting Hitler by automobile close to Munich whenever he commenced the cleansing of the SA. As Secretary of Justice, Frank attempted to resist illegal murders, yet Hitler openly shamed him. Frank yielded and gave over the captives, comprising Ernst Röhm. Norman spots this instant as his parents' ethical surrender. Nicholas concurs, yet puts it harshly. That daytime, he consumed the rules, crushed it underneath. Since then onward, there remained gore upon his fingers, inside his spirit, and upon his awareness. To ignore his compliance, Hitler penalized him regarding his paws. During 1935, he named him secretary without portfolio, a token role that compelled the household to relocate to Berlin. Norman recalls those periods as isolating: a massive residence, drivers, wealth, yet zero companions. His youth remained passed amongst literature, notably Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, whereas his guardians remained continuously absent. He loathed Nazi community gatherings and dreaded getting rendered a fool of before front of elite officials. Throughout those periods, he encountered Goebbels, Goering, Himmler, and even Mussolini, whom he could not endure. Ashamed, he nevertheless recalls declining to hand blossoms toward the Italian ruler for dread of producing an error. Faith and warmth remained rare at residence. His parent, a very learned person who cherished classic tunes, performed the keyboard and organ by hearing. Government got debated at the eating desk. Norman constantly felt that his parent did not trust inside a German triumph. He executed his obligations, yet possessed zero faith inside triumph. Nicholas, upon the opposite hand, asserts his parent remained an extremist, hooked to control and compliant to Hitler. Norman recalls the 1936 Berlin Olympics, notably Jesse Owens's triumphs, which captivated him. However, he possesses forgotten the beginning celebration. He additionally sorrowfully recalls the vanishing of a Jewish companion from his academy during 1938, lacking comprehending the cause at the moment. That exact year, throughout Crystal, he overheard his mother question Frank whether he possessed God implicated. He rejected it. Norman believes that evening signaled a turning point, the beginning of an all-out combat against multiple foes, even though nobody yet suspected that Hitler remained behind the pogrom. Nicholas and Norman present differing stories of their guardians' functions within Berlin. Norman thinks his mother might possess desire to humble existence and that Frank merely sought control after 1940. Nicholas, upon the contrary hand, asserts that together gained from the start. His mother, an enthusiast of wealth, status, and command. His parent, greedy and crooked, eager to recover status, alongside his role as Administrator General of Poland. Nicholas asserts his mother relished the benefits of the ghetto and expected to get handled as a free secretary, whereas gathering costly pelt jackets and outfits. Together, guardians, he thinks, remained compliant inside a profession of theft and control, constructed upon the disaster of rest. The peak of Hans of Frank's profession arrived on the 26th of September 1939, simply 7 months succeeding the delivery of his youngest boy, Nicholas. That daytime, Adolf Hitler named him Administrator General of the captured Polish region. Back within Berlin, Frank dropped before his spouse and stated, "Brit, you remain going to become ruler of Poland." As she and the youths traveled back to the household dwelling within Schlersee, a scenic Alpine town within Bavaria, he departed eastward regarding Krakow. There he founded his command center inside an ancient fortress upon the Vistula stream, a location saturated inside significance regarding Poles, exactly as it remained there that old rulers got crowned and their graves got maintained. Since high overwatching the town and rural area, the fresh German ruler changed his territory into a scaled-down replica of the Third Reich. As soon exactly as he arrived, he rendered his strategy clear. Poland shall get handled exactly as a settlement. The Poles shall become the servants of the grander German realm. For almost 6 years, Hans Frank methodically dismantled the Polish administration, robbed its wealth, and conquered its citizens. He announced German the authorized speech, segregated Jewish people within walled ghettos, seized Jewish and Polish belongings, and stole national artwork assets. As Europe hungered, delicacies and commodities got sent to the household residents within Schleers. Hundreds of thousands of Polish laborers got banished to Germany to fuel the combat campaign, and the remainder existed on barely 600 calories a daytime. Frank additionally tried to control the Catholic religion, making sure that clerics might speak whatever the administration commanded or become removed. More than 1,000 priests got detained. 850 died at Dau. His savagery gained him the admiration of the most brutal parts of the SS and the authorities. Following the conflict, they might create mincemeat out of the Poles and Ukrainians. I do not care, he previously stated. He bragged to a Berlin reporter that if he published one notice regarding every 7 Poles killed, there might not exist adequate timber within Poland to create that quantity paper. His strategy against the Jewish people remained particularly cruel. As early as 1940, he declared inside gatherings that German commanders must not split housing alongside human pests. He vowed to clear KCO of Jewish people and construct pristine German districts possessing a German atmosphere. Inside recurring addresses, he demanded their removal. We must conclude them off one method or another, he stated inside his fortress. We cannot execute the 3.5 million Jewish people nor poison them, yet we might enact steps that shall drive to their annihilation. By December 1942, 85% of Polish Jewish people possessed already got banished toward internment facilities, the majority of them inside his area. Regarding Nicholas Frank, his parents' phrases remain the toughest to endure. He does not believe he remained anti-Semitic out of belief, yet instead out of pragmatism and frailty. He wished to look strong toward Hitler and the rest. It remains nearly impossible to review whatever he stated lacking experiencing rage and disgrace. I cannot comprehend how somebody who cherished Chopin, who remained a companion of Richard Strauss, who wept at December tales, might utter such brutal things. To me, those phrases remain exactly as horrific, exactly as the killings executed by the SS. Norman, upon the opposite hand, thinks that those addresses did not show his parents' spirit. He never caught him converse exactly like that inside the household, where anti-Semitism remained not a subject of dialogue. To him, Frank wore such speech was a political facade, a method of displaying loyalty to the administration. Whenever I reviewed whatever he possessed stated, I experienced disgraced. That remained not the parent I cherished. It remains such a deep paradox that I still cannot comprehend it. Certain officers inside the overall administration subsequently tried to rescue Frank's reputation by assigning the offenses entirely upon the SS and its commander, Heinrich Himmler. They asserted that Frank severely spoke out whenever SS officers remained attending, so exactly as not to look feeble. They claimed that he possessed zero command over the internment facilities, which answered directly to Himmler. They even highlighted that Auschwitz, the most notorious of all, remained outside his bureaucratic zone. Even though it remains correct that Frank hated Himmler and his representative within Poland, Friedrich Kruger, his conflicts alongside the SS remained more a matter of control competitions than ethical disputes. There remained additionally an SS probe into Frank and his spouse regarding bribery. They got charged of obtaining belongings inside the Jewish ghetto at absurdly cheap rates, or exactly as presents. Nicholas recalls his mother stating that the best undergarments originated from the ghetto. The household stole provisions, artworks of creativity, Russian ornaments, rugs, stones, and precious items. Certain of this plunder ended up inside their Bavarian residence. Frank utilized the exact artwork broker exactly as Hermann Göring. Whenever he discovered he remained under probe, he faked receipts to hide up. Yet, the concluding document determined that the whole KOF bureaucracy remained crooked. The bribery controversy burst inside 1942. Up to then, Frank remained totally immersed inside governing the grandest captured region inside the Reich. Throughout that period, his household stayed within Germany. Norman, regarding instance, possessed traveled back to Bavaria during 1939 and seldom visited his parent throughout the vacations. In March 1940, he got dispatched to residential academy. The parting from his sibling did not notably impact him. His isolation remained the exact possessing or lacking her. Whereas Hans of Frank enforced his orders within Poland, Norman discovered regarding the combat inside the learning room. He recalls how they honored the collapse of France. Even though he did not partake his peers' tactical passion, he chose reviewing or practicing hockey to fantasizing regarding the battle lines. In March 1941, he got called to Kiev to join a recently launched academy regarding Germans and Volksdeutsche. Even though he chose to remain within Bavaria, he consented, wishing to pass period alongside his parent. Kov amazed him. He anticipated a freezing, dark town, yet instead discovered it nice and scenic. However, existence at the fortress appeared boring. Berlin, even though inside Peace Moment, appeared more energetic. The grandest surprise remained reuniting alongside a parent who possessed altered. He appeared more grave beneath stress. It remained exactly as though he remained already deceased and did not even realize it yet. Brigitte occasionally journeyed alongside Nicholas and the other youths. Yet Norman passed lengthy stretches alone, alongside his parent, scarcely viewing the remainder of the personnel. Frank wished at minimum one of his youths to escort him to uphold a fragment of household existence. Norman cycled his bike to Academy. He toured the Kov ghetto, which appeared exactly like merely another portion of the town. He did not recall any barriers or unique marks, and thought it existed prior to his parent arrived. Upon a trip to Warsaw, he noticed the ghetto's Jewish people shoving each other. Certain still possessed something to provide. Rest remained already completely ruined. E-Class additionally maintained unforgettable thoughts. Once he steered alongside his mother to the ghetto, he noticed youths staring at him sorrowfully from the pathway. He questioned his mother why they bore shapes upon their garments and who the males possessing lashes remained. She answered coldly, "Do not stress, you might not comprehend. Relish the journey." Another instance, he got lifted up to peek across a hole and view a starved lady inside a chamber. "She remains the cruel sorceress," he got informed. Decades subsequently, he discovered she remained a rebellion combatant who fled from a facility. She got killed. These pictures scarred him eternally. Norman additionally saw unsettling sights. Once, whilst practicing football, he heard shots. A sentry detailed that Poles remained getting killed for vocalizing the banned country tune. He challenged his parent, yet he grew furious. "It remains combat. Do not raise inquiries." Both siblings recall gatherings at the fortress. Goebbels, Rosenberg, and Reich creatives and players might march there. Krakow remained an artistic sanctuary away from the battle line. Norman additionally journeyed alongside his parent across Poland. Traveling close Auschwitz, he did not spot it. He thought it remained merely a standard P facility. Merely subsequently did he comprehend its actual function. At Academy, a peer sketched a drawing of a Jewish person stepping into a grinder and coming out exactly as washing powder. The sketch got honored by the educator. Norman did not speak it at residence, yet he felt something horrific remained occurring. Nicholas additionally recalled getting close afield. He noticed famished males drop from a beast, and Commander handed him warm cocoa. He did not comprehend anything. And even though his parent did not bring them upon every his trips, he kept them solitary inside the fortress for lengthy periods. Inside 1 year, he remained absent 170 days. In the meantime, Frank restarted a connection alongside a previous partner within Germany. Even though Norman felt that the marriage possessed chilled, he remained unaware that his parent wished a separation. In 1942, Frank penned a note to Brigitte inside, which he spoke vaguely of gore and piles of corpses, implying his participation inside the massacre. He suggested a separation to shield her. She declined. The marital conflict intensified. Brigitte charged him of remaining an unstable lunatic, and he connected her to pelt smuggling and alleged partner administrator Karl Lasch, even implying that Nicholas remained Lasch's boy. The controversy concluded whenever Hitler stepped in and commanded quiet. Even though the marriage proceeded, the connection remained completely shattered. Nicholas, barely 5 years of age, felt the stress. He recalled arriving at the fortress, his parents' arrogant attitude, his mother's quiet anger, and the dread he experienced before him. He frolicked amongst the graves of Poland's kings and crashed his wagon into the Polish workers, realizing they could not respond. He remained an hostile youth, the outcome of a broken residence. Norman, regarding his side, grew progressively withdrawn. He frolicked solitary upon the field, depicting a hunched elderly male. To Nicholas, his sibling remained already a grown-up. He does not remember any signs of warmth from his parent, aside from an occasional jest or a soft smack whenever he shattered his spectacles. Norman, upon the contrary hand, recalls him as friendly, attempting to make up regarding his absence. He never struck him, and by 1942 he appeared progressively absent and concentrated upon his job. The period 1942 signaled a turning instance regarding the Frank household. Norman, nearly 14, remained of the compulsory age to enter the Hitler Youth. However, because of his continuous travel among Kov, Berlin, and Schlers, he never accepted upon any specific tasks. I merely needed to wear the outfit. That remained sufficient, he subsequently recalled. At the moment, he did not spot anything weird regarding it. He viewed it part of the standard schedule of existence throughout wartime. Yet whilst Norman officially avoided the formations of the young Nazis, his parent faced more severe issues. On the 5th of March 1942, Hans Frank got called to Henry Himmler's personal car, which possessed got uniquely flown to Poland. Anticipating him at the gathering remained two of his harshest competitors, the powerful Hans Lemurs and the dreaded Martin Bormann. Himmler possessed collected massive proof of rampant bribery inside the bureaucracy of the overall administration. To prevent a larger controversy, Frank consented to surrender total command of the authorities to the SS, thereby giving up a massive portion of his control within Poland. Back within Krakow, amidst this political defeat, Frank began to locate sanctuary inside melodies. He passed his evenings performing the keyboard, occasionally regarding hours. Norman escorted him quietly. It remained simply the two of us. I watched him perform. It remained his method of fleeing. To ignore the deal alongside Himmler, Frank maintained a profound anger toward the SS. Inside June and July of that exact year, he delivered 4 distinct speeches within Germany, promoting a return to the rule of justice, an autonomous court, and in finish to random captures. Norman watched one of these addresses at a college. The scholars applauded them, yet the Nazi command reacted angrily. Hitler removed him of his group roles and banned him to converse outside Poland. Frank, far from stepping backward, offered his quitting, even though the Führer declined. According to Nicholas, his parent remained thrilled to discover that he might get permitted to retain his role. Norman viewed these addresses in display of bravery, showing his parents' refusal of the government terror symbolized by the SS. Nicholas, upon the contrary hand, whereas acknowledging a specific bravery inside his action, labeled it false. To him, Frank possessed zero right to advocate justice within Germany, whereas continuing to lead an annihilation machine within Poland. Simply days following his progressive addresses on the 1st of August 1942, he delivered a fiery speech to German, Ukrainian, and Polish groups within Poland, inside which he appreciated Hitler regarding handing him that ancient home of Jewish people. He ridiculed the vanishing of thousands of repulsive Jewish people, jested regarding their annihilation, and the crowd burst inside laughter. To Nicholas, this comparison spoke volumes, sarcastic and bloodthirsty phrases, simply days following conversing of tribunals and rules. The savagery proceeded. By the conclusion of 1942, Frank announced that, within a few years, the Poles might cease to survive. The succeeding springtime, he promised to murder 100 Polish people, regarding every German killed. He grumbled that the Reich remained not dispatching adequate forces to enact out the needed job, likening his duty to the Soviet cleansings. Before his partners at Belvedere Fortress within Warsaw, he even admitted every of us possesses already guaranteed a spot upon Roosevelt's register of combat transgressors. I hold the privilege of remaining number 1. In the meantime, Norman stayed oblivious of this aspect of his parent. To him, Hans Frank remained simply an elite official, occupied alongside his obligations. Somewhat remote, yet always loving. Nicholas viewed this gap as an indication of increasing dread of the Allied march. The courageous males upon the stride upon Europe remained starting to shake, he might subsequently note. Whenever the Allies arrived within Normandy on the 6th of June 1944, Norman remained at the household's second fortress within Kressendorf. His parent within Kov comprehended then that the result remained unavoidable. He realized the combat possessed got defeated regarding years his boy might recall. Even though he privately showed acceptance, inside public, Frank proceeded to release fiery announcements. Whenever Italy collapsed, he announced that the struggle remained shrunk to a clash among the swastika and the Jewish people. During 1944, he even announced, "We commenced alongside 3.5 million of them. Currently merely tiny units of laborers endure. The rest, let us state, possess immigrated." Inside another speech, he bragged that if he got conquered, at minimum he might boastfully state that he possessed killed 2 million Poles. He even tried to organize an anti-Semitic gathering within Kov, which he named Anti-Semitropolis. Yet he never displayed that aspect to Norman. Upon the reverse, as the collapse of the Reich neared, he grabbed to his initial born. At December 1944, he summoned him back to Kov. He remained peaceful, accepting. He no longer held any fantasies. On the 17th of January 1945, Hans Frank departed Kryov regarding Schleier's succeeding weeks of incinerating documents. His railway remained transporting portion of Poland's cultural legacy, comprising Leonardo da Vinci's depiction of Cecilia Gallerani and a depiction of Raphael. Nicholas might recall viewing the Da Vinci painting inside his parents' office and viewing it ugly. I believe the lady remained gripping a rodent. The piece, however, got rescued following the conflict. Throughout his withdrawal, Frank planned a lavish 3-day gathering at a fortress within Sisia, which ignited anger within Berlin considering the lack of provisions and the harshness of the lines. On the 25th of January, Norman noticed his parent again at the household residence. He remained exactly as always, he recalled. His mother, certain they possessed committed nothing incorrect, peacefully anticipated the Americans. Frank, in the meantime, arranged up a temporary workspace inside the nearby settlement of Neyhaus. Nicholas vividly recalls the daytime they noticed an endless sequence of Allied aircrafts glide by upon their route to Munich. We remained all standing before front of the residence. Nobody uttered a phrase. On the 4th of May 1945, Norman toured his parent regarding the final instance. They split a mug of brew. Frank possessed his journals alongside him and remained positive they might demonstrate his blamelessness. "I am the final secretary, still at liberty consuming brew and liberty," he jested. Hours subsequently, he got detained by U.S. Lieutenant Stein. Previously, he handed his spouse a stack of 50,000 marks. To Nicholas, it remained a degrading action. There remained zero kiss, zero warmth. It remained exactly like compensating a lady of the night. Frank willingly handed over his 42 volumes of formal journals. He thought they might show his resistance to Himmler. Little did he realize they might become the core pillar of the prosecution's argument. Confronting the tribunal, he remained shocked by his personal phrases. It remained a savage and turbulent era. I utilized horrific phrases. Nicholas, upon the opposite hand, remains thankful that he saved them. Whenever my rage drops, I merely require to flip across them. Upon getting brought to jail, American troops, appalled by pictures of the internment facilities, savagely struck him. He tried suicide by slicing his neck utilizing a corroded item. Days subsequently, he tried suicide again, cutting open his wrist. Regarding the household, everything altered whenever they noticed the pictures of the facilities. Norman recalls the shock. That remains whenever I realized this remained not a combat. It remained something worse. Nicholas, barely 7 years of age, remained additionally traumatized. Saw unclothed corpses, boys, girls, entirely piled together. I understood my parent possessed something to execute alongside it. On the 19th of October, the accused became officially indicted. Frank burst into weeping. The hearing commenced on the 20th of November. Inside the Frank residence, the hearings could become heard upon the broadcast. Everybody remained sobbing. There remained sorrow inside the atmosphere, Nicholas remembers. Throughout the hearing, Frank portrayed himself as regretful, rejected Nazism, baptized himself a Catholic, and announced the administration's blame. He asserted Hitler symbolized wickedness upon earth. Inside an unforgettable phrase, he stated, "1,000 years shall cross, and Germany's blame shall not get cleared." The magistrates viewed it a theatrical yet hollow admission. He got sentenced upon 2 charges. Norman valued his parents' taking of the fault. He performed it regarding the German population. Still, he admitted that even though the ruling remained winners over defeated, it remained required. During September 1946, the household toured Frank regarding the final instance. Norman noticed him peaceful, skinny, and handed him counsel regarding caution. Nicholas, conversely, remained annoyed. He vowed me a December together. I understood he remained deceiving. Currently, I comprehend he desired to console me, yet I might possess chosen a truthful farewell. On the 30th of September, the ruling got delivered down. Frank, confused, silently conveyed his appreciation. He remained the solitary person, to converse succeeding listening his passing ruling. Norman heard upon the broadcast alongside his household. I did not desire a lifetime ruling. It might possess remained tougher to exist, realizing my parent remained still inside jail. Nicholas does not recall the precise instant, yet he realized he possessed got condemned. It remained the continuous chatter at Academy. Everybody realized who he remained. The household anticipated him to get fired exactly as a tactical person. Upon discovering he might get choked, Norman remained furious. Nicholas did not partake that perspective. I desired him that dread, that passing, since he caused millions experience that exact dread. Bridget remained the person who delivered the intelligence. Clothed inside vivid shades, she informed them their parent-possessed perished, and that it remained superior that manner. Michael and Bridget wept. Nicholas, quiet, felt his mother stare at him for not weeping. He never noticed her drop a tear for Frank. The tears that arrived later remained for suffering and doubt. Nicholas, still a youth, relived the sight of his parent upon the route toward the noose. I remained the person preparing to get choked, he stated. Norman carried the agony in a damaging method. For him, sorrow transformed into sickness. His spouse asserted he still wept for his parent. During 1947, Brigitte got held inside a holding facility. Nicholas toured her. She jested it remained exactly like a holiday. For Norman, nevertheless, it remained a phase of intense difficulty. He experienced helpless, incapable to labor or learn. He got dismissed for remaining the boy of a combat transgressor. Brigitte discovered a method to endure. She vended the text her spouse penned inside jail and subsequently his notes via post. Relying upon Nicholas, she gained above 200,000 marks from these purchases. Driven by sentimental previous Nazis, Nicholas commenced investigating everything regarding his parent. Every instance he noticed his title inside a text, he reviewed it. He never shielded him. He retreated inside himself and never questioned his mother anything. He merely occasionally engaged inside seances to reach him. Upon one instance, he thought his parent got reborn inside the neighbor's duck's hund. Succeeding 2 weeks, lacking a response, he secured 50 firecrackers to it and triggered it off. That remains how I experienced regarding him, he detailed. Norman never produced that attempt. His thoughts remained adequate. He never reviewed the journals or the hearing records. During 1951, he relocated toward Argentina. He passed 5 years inside Buenos Aires and the Andes laboring distinct tasks. During 1955, he traveled back since his mother remained sick. He never traveled back toward South America. Inside Germany, he discovered a wealthy yet forgetful population that did not desire to converse regarding the history. Nicholas, upon the contrary hand, chased an unsteady profession. He took multiple classes, failed at any, and ultimately switched to reporting. He became a cultural editor for Playboy Germany, and later a journalist for Stern. The two brothers disagreed on nearly everything. Norman never had kids. I do not think the Franks should proceed. Nicholas had a daughter. One felt his heritage was a burden. The other that in Germany being the son of a major criminal was a mark of infamy. Yet both existed with their father's phantom. Nicholas was still trying to understand what had driven him to become an accomplice to the massacre. Norman, equally confused, merely wished he had a tougher father. He would never have betrayed him, even if he had been a fugitive. Nicholas concluded that his father had ruined Norman's life. And although they often debated the family heritage, they both shared a common truth. The images of the deceased and the words of the past would live on in their minds eternally. It remains accurate that Rudolf Hess commanded his private assistant to hand a note to the Führer, the sunrise succeeding his journey, notifying him regarding the operation and rendering it obvious that, if it collapsed, it remained to get viewed an entirely private action. Wolf Hess asserts, nevertheless, that his parent might never possess executed out in mission of that scale lacking at minimum Hitler's unspoken consent. Decades subsequently, he might strongly state that Hitler himself commanded that zero probe get performed into the issue and that zero specifics get shared. Succeeding his capture, Hess got held initially inside the Tower of London, subsequently inside British mental clinics. His unpredictable actions, which comprised periods of memory loss and fearful signs, fed the picture of a psychologically unsteady person. British leaders spread this concept, strengthening the perspective that his journey remained an action of insanity. Nevertheless, Wolf Hess continuously dismissed this tale. He thinks his parents' occurrences remained either falsified or induced by intense separation, and his main objective remained to stop the British from utilizing him exactly as a negotiating tool or delivering him over toward the Soviets. Following the conflict, Rudolf Hess got judged inside Nuremberg, charged of plotting to conduct a combat of hostility and offenses against tranquility. He confronted a hearing inside which his actions once more attracted notice. Inside the starting gatherings, he looked bewildered and remote, strengthening the view of psychological unsteadiness. Yet months subsequently, he abruptly recovered his recollection and chose to shield himself, announcing the validity of his tranquility operation. He asserted that his singular goal remained to avoid combat among England and Germany, and condemned the tribunal's prejudice. Wolf Hess views the hearing a joke. Regarding him, Nuremberg remained an action of winner's fairness, and his parent got sentenced not regarding his real actions, yet regarding the representation of his role. It remained significantly simpler to discover him responsible than to concede that he possessed tried tranquility, he strongly stated. And whereas his parent got cleared of combat offenses and offenses against humankind, he got completely condemned toward lifetime jail regarding the initial two charges, plotting and hostility. Wolf asserts that his parent remained truly sentenced regarding attempting to parley alongside the Reich's adversaries lacking official permission, and regarding transforming into an awkward representation regarding together the Allies and the Nazi administration. The jail selected regarding his time remained Spandau inside West Berlin, a harsh, pale structure that held multiple prisoners until the mid-1950s. As his peer prisoners got freed one by one, Rudolf Hess stayed the solitary captive. Since 1966, up to his passing during 1987, he remained the solitary captive at Spandau. Regarding over 20 decades, that massive structure got maintained active alongside sentries cycling among British, French, Americans, and Soviets to monitor over a singular person. Wolf toured his parent every month beneath severe rules. Dialogues got tracked, bodily touch got forbidden, and whatever motion that might get viewed ideological got instantly severed off. To ignore this, parent and boy created a profound bond maintained through notes, stares, and quietness. Our ideological bond remained never shattered, Wolf penned. Whereas he existed, I remained his sound and succeeding his passing, his remembrance. The passing of Rudolf Hess on the 17th of August, 1987, got officially determined a suicide. Relying upon the document, he choked himself inside the tiny structure inside the jail yard, utilizing an electrical cord. Nevertheless, Wolf never welcomed this tale. For decades, he asserted that his parent got killed by British or Soviet operatives to stop his freeing, which West Germany possessed already strongly demanded inside the concluding years of his existence. Wolf debates that his parent remained nearly 93 years of age, remained beneath 24-hour monitoring, and remained bodily unable of choking himself lacking aid. Instantly succeeding his passing, Wolff commenced a global crusade to demonstrate that Rudolf Hess remained the casualty of an offense. He provided health documents, pictures, and testimony from previous guards, and requested an independent autopsy. Despite his attempts, the involved governments did not reopen the case. The prison was demolished shortly afterward, and Rudolf Hess's body was buried in Wunedel, although it was later exhumed and cremated to prevent his grave from becoming a neo-Nazi pilgrimage site. For Wolf Hess, his father's name has been a burden he could never shed. He has felt marked, isolated, and harassed for bearing the surname of a symbol of the Third Reich. But far from disowning it, he has vindicated him as a man of peace, condemned for his attempt to avoid war. His endless and lonely battle possesses remained exactly as much regarding the persona of his parent, exactly as regarding his personal self. The youth I experienced remained not a standard existence, he previously admitted. I remained the boy of a continuous captive. I existed underneath his phantom, yet additionally underneath his honor. Inside the Germany that surfaced succeeding World Conflict II, the title Hess got carved inside the shared remembrance exactly as the equivalent regarding treachery, extremism, or regarding a chosen handful, sacrifice. Yet regarding Wolf Hess, the family name symbolized a private battle. Since an early age, he got compelled to clarify his existence depending upon his parents' history, something that, inside his personal phrases, never stopped to stay visible. Whereas numerous heirs of top-level Nazis picked quietness, title alterations, or inner banishment, Wolff picked a distinct route, that of defense. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, whenever West Germany remained confronting its personal procedure of memory and fairness, Wolf Hess started a sequence of public interferences directed at altering the authorized tale regarding his parent. He engaged inside memorial gatherings, penned texts, and provided dialogues inside which he openly challenged the validity of the Nuremberg court. His statement remained obvious. Rudolf Hess possessed not got judged regarding actual offenses, yet instead penalized regarding remaining the guardian of a tranquility operation that angered together the Allies and Hitler himself. Inside this situation, Wolff transformed into a debatable persona. Groups symbolizing casualties of Nazism tagged him a denier, and numerous Germans dismissed him regarding his refusal to distinctly denounce Hitler's administration. Yet Wolff continued. His battle remained not ideological, he stated, yet lawful and compassionate. My parent possessed zero gore upon his fingers. He got sentenced by history, penned by the winners. He restated inside presentations that produced together fascination and anger. His fight to demonstrate that Rudolf Hess got killed, not suicide, transformed into the core subject of his public existence. He requested medical probes, requested regarding the restarting of the matter before British and German tribunals, and even succeeded to rally certain German lawmakers to require entry toward the hidden documents. To ignore this, he never obtained a definitive reply. The Allied leaders stayed resolute inside their tale, suicide through choking. Wolf Hess never officially connected alongside neo-Nazi organizations or engaged inside radical actions, yet his speech got utilized and boosted by extreme right organizations who viewed him exactly as a handy representation. He, nevertheless, attempted to separate himself. I remain not a National Socialist. I remain the boy of a person who got unfairly jailed regarding decades. I do not accept the offenses of the Third Reich, yet I require fairness regarding my parent. As he grew older, Wolff transformed more tired, even though not surrendered. Inside dialogues toward the conclusion of the 1990s, he still claimed that one daytime the reality shall get recognized and stated that the grandest offense of the winners remained not sentencing the responsible, yet twisting history and distributing fault toward total eras. His heritage inside Germany stays awkward. Whereas certain view him an instance of denial stubbornness, rest, notably specific areas of the extreme right, show him exactly as a sacrifice. In 2011, when his father was exhumed and his grave dismantled to prevent its use as a Nazi shrine, Wolff publicly denounced the measure as a final humiliation against a man who was already dead. He died in 2001, having failed to achieve his goal of legally vindicating Rudolf Hess. But for more than half a century, Wolf embodied a unique figure in German memory. Not that of the repentant son, nor that of the silent heir, but that of the tireless defender of a fallen father, with a blend of faith, conviction, and defiance. In the story of the children of the Third Reich's leaders, Wolf Hess stands out for having chosen the path less traveled, not breaking with the past, but embracing it, rewriting it, and projecting it into the future. And inside that try, maybe he concluded up forming a self-connected from the phantom he attempted to save. Different from other youths who bore the family name exactly like a hex, Wolf Hess transformed it his flag. He did not reject it. He did not pause. He did not retreat backwards. Regarding above 4 decades, he battled persistently regarding his parents' freeing. Not from acceptance or grieving, yet from defense. He noticed inside Rudolf Hess not a transgressor, yet a person of morals, a sacrifice for tranquility, a casualty of a fairness machine steered by the winners. His sound, solid and rebellious, acted as a contrast to those inside Germany who attempted to build a tale of remorse and space. For Wolf, there remained zero space for gray. His parent remained blameless, and the authorized tale remained a falsehood. His statement, different from other reports branded by blame or shock, remains that of a person who viewed himself the successor to a mission and resolved to transport it onward past the tomb. Yet not all the youths of Nazi commanders split that viewpoint. Certain submerged inside quietness, rest inside refusal, and a handful exactly like Nicholas Frank started upon a fundamentally distinct route. The female child of the concluding Führer, Ursula Donutz, matured inside a residence where order remained the rule, quietness remained habit, and obligation remained a faith. She remained the oldest female child of Grand Admiral Karl Donitz, the concluding leader of government of the Third Reich. Delivered on the 3rd of April 1917, amidst the chaotic initial underwater conflicts inside the Baltic and the official salutations of the youthful commander, who did not yet realize that decades subsequently he might rule a perishing Reich. Regarding 8 days, Ursula watched one of the extremely unique tales of the 20th century, that of the troop Hitler picked exactly as his successor. Despite never possessing, remained a participant of the Nazi group. Across her existence, Ursula not merely observed her parent covertly reconstruct the U-boat armada, yet additionally climb across the hierarchies of the military to transform into Hitler's extremely reliable person inside the concluding times of the administration. She recognized him not exactly as a representation or a historic persona, yet exactly as a parent, severe, quiet, occasionally unreachable, yet additionally steady, deep, and defensive. She remained his preferred female child, the solitary person able of soothing him whenever he remained furious, the person who gripped his finger upon his passing bed, the person who shielded him throughout his imprisonment inside Spandau, and who even decades succeeding his passing proceeds to state lacking doubt, "I remain pleased of my parent. He remained not a transgressor." Regarding above 60 decades, she existed alongside the burden of that family name. Her youth amongst maritime stations, the passing of her 2 siblings at Ocean, her parents' appointment exactly as Hitler's successor, his ruling at Nuremberg, the decades inside jail, the travel back to a Germany that chose to neglect him. Everything of this abandoned profound scars, yet additionally a belief that her parent, exactly like numerous males of his era, performed out of obligation, not belief system, and that boundary, which remained invisible to rest, remained constantly obvious to Ursula. Since an early age, Ursula Donitz comprehended that her household remained not exactly like whatever rest. Maritime existence formed every part of her being. The continuous relocations, the extended missing of her parent, the severity of the residence, and the constant presence of obligation. Nevertheless, even since youth, she realized there remained something distinct regarding her connection alongside Karl Donitz. Whereas her siblings retreated backwards from the commander's harsh persona, she remained capable to extend out to him even inside his gloomiest times. Whenever she remained inside a terrible temper, My mother might dispatch me. I remained the solitary person who might converse to her inside that condition. She might remember decades subsequently. To ignore their intimate connection, Ursula constantly experienced a sentimental boundary that never completely shattered. Her parent remained a person of quietness. Quiet, strictly trained to the utmost limit. He never stated, "I cherish you," never embraced or smooched her. Yet emotion, the method he gripped her finger, remained adequate to allow her realize he cherished her. Across her adolescence, Ursula quietly observed her parents' ascent. She noticed how the military, his standard universe, changed him into one of the extremely dominant males inside Germany. She noticed him transform into the commander of the U-Boat power, subsequently a Grand Commander, and eventually, inside emotion, exactly as surprising exactly as it remained dark, Hitler's successor. To her, zero of this appeared weird. Inside the center of disorder, inside a nation ruined by combat, it appeared normal that her parent, so honest, so calm, must take leadership. The daytime she listened upon the broadcast that her parent possessed got titled Ruler of the Reich. Ursula was not amazed. Inside her universe, controlled by compliance and worth, it remained reasonable that those who possessed executed their obligation perfectly might get compensated alongside authority. She did not ponder regarding government. She did not ponder regarding belief system. She pondered regarding her parent who remained over everything a mariner. Throughout the concluding weeks of the conflict, Ursula existed alongside the dread of ruin. The nearness of the Soviets, the tales of mistreatment, the delivery of her second kid inside a destroyed clinic. As everything dropped aside surrounding her, she gripped to a solitary reality. Her parent and spouse remained united inside the North, keeping united whatever endured of the nation. It remained the solitary item that provided her tranquility. Whenever intelligence of Donuts' yielding and capture reached, Ursula experienced a fresh, more doubtful phase remained starting. She possessed never envisioned that her parent might get judged exactly as a combat transgressor. To her, Donuts possessed remained a troop, one who possessed not harassed anybody, who possessed not blasted upon regular citizens, who possessed simply directed an armada, adhering to the rules of the ocean. The concept that he might get sentenced appeared ridiculous. Across the Nuremberg hearings, Ursula nervously tracked every progression. She heard to the broadcast recaps, reviewed the documents, and attempted to decode whatever was not getting stated. She did not view the sessions, yet succeeded to tour him once inside jail. She clearly recalled the rods, the American troops, her parents' growing old visage past the metal net. It remained the initial instance I noticed him again succeeding the conflict. I could not feel him. Yet I stared at him a ton, and I stated, "I care for you." He locked my stare powerfully. It remained adequate. Upon the daytime of the ruling, Ursula traveled back to the broadcast center. She anticipated his freeing. Whenever she listened 10 years, she experienced a combination of shock and comfort. He possessed not got cleared, yet he possessed not got condemned to passing either. For her, her parent remained still blameless, no matter whatever the magistrate stated. Across the succeeding couple decades, she merely toured him 11 instances inside Spandau. She could not endure to view him inside that pale outfit, the timber shoes, his stare toughened by jail. To ignore the boundaries, the sentries, the Soviet monitoring, she constantly preserved the exact picture of him. Solid, peaceful, calm. Liberty lastly arrived during 1956. It remained one of the most joyful daytimes of my existence, he stated. Yet he additionally comprehended that his parent remained no longer the exact. He possessed transformed, more resilient, more isolated. The decades of captivity possessed impacted him further than he might ever concede. The most terrible maybe remained the disdain of the fresh German nation. He got refused awards, connection alongside the military, and acknowledgement. Donuts, who possessed labored regarding his nation alongside total dedication, got excluded out of authorized history. This apathy angered him further than jail. Whenever Karl Donuts departed Spandau, Ursula thought the most terrible remained completed, yet she rapidly comprehended that the 10 decades of captivity remained merely the introduction to a distinct type of ruling, unseen status. The federal nation of Germany, inside its desire to separate itself from the history, muted him. There remained zero acknowledgement, zero award, zero motion. The military he possessed directed declined to title him. Nobody welcomed him at formal gatherings. It remained exactly as assuming he possessed never lived. Ursula experienced further agony from this barring than from jail itself. It remained exactly like he got deleted, she might state, and regarding him who possessed, handed his total existence toward the military, it remained a degradation. Throughout his initial decades of liberty, Dönitz located sanctuary inside Penning. He started writing his personal accounts, dedicated himself toward responding notes from ancient partners, and maintaining breathing the group of experienced underwater sailors who still honored him. Ursula toured him consistently alongside her youths. Her oldest boy, upon arriving at teen years, performed the representative choice to combine the family name Dönitz toward his personal. Since then onward, he boastfully autographed Donit Hilaire. Nobody at Academy challenged his choice. Regarding Ursula, it remained evidence that her parents' persona remained still honored, at minimum inside quietness. The decades crossed, and the elderly commander became more angry. The passing of his spouse, Ingeborg, during 1962 remained the concluding strike. Alongside her, the singular crossing that possessed, sentimentally linked him toward the globe got destroyed. Ursula viewed the alteration instantly. Harsher, more gloomy, lesser eager to display himself exposed. She proceeded to tour him, quietly nurturing regarding him. Occasionally she discovered him circled by previous mariners, distinct instances solitary, secured inside his texts, preoccupied alongside the correctness regarding historic records. I loathed flaws inside history texts, he might remember. I might review them alongside a drawing tool inside grip and strike them away angrily. To ignore his ideological separation, Dönitz preserved a group of dedicated followers. Upon every maritime celebration, he obtained scores of notes. At each experienced troops gathering, his picture got lifted exactly as that of the concluding authorized leader of the Reich. Ursula, nevertheless, comprehended that this history remained a hazard zone. She did not partake the craving regarding ideological restoring that her parent developed up to the absolute conclusion. Her battle remained distinct to save her parent lacking carrying the burden of the role. Whenever his concluding decades arrived, Ursula remained the solitary person who stayed near. She nurtured regarding him throughout his sicknesses, endured his quietnesses, and aided him whenever his form no longer reacted. She remained beside his edge upon the night of his passing, petting his skull whenever he drew his concluding inhalation upon December night 1980. It remained the correct finish. He perished calmly. He did not agonize. And I remained there. The burial remained a huge meeting. Above 1,000 individuals showed up, partners, experienced troops, and previous ocean commanders. Yet not a singular delegate of the German nation remained attending. The banner of the nation regarding which he possessed, labored his total existence, wrapped his casket, yet solely at the demand of his partners. Regarding Ursula, this formal missing remained verification of an injury that never cured. The succeeding decades remained packed alongside pondering. Alongside her youths matured, Ursula traveled back toward her occupational existence. She transformed into an attorney, a profession her parent possessed boastfully endorsed of. Yet carrying the Dönitz family name remained a massive heritage. Regarding numerous decades, she might state, I battled to remain myself. They continuously questioned me regarding him. They continuously stared at me exactly as the female child of. Occasionally I even rejected it. Yet across period, I welcomed it. Currently, Ursula does not attempt to honor or defend her parent. She admits that he remained a person of his era alongside his highs and lows. He possessed huge morals, yet additionally massive errors. His belief inside obligation prevented him from challenging numerous items. He remained never a transgressor, Yet he was not blameless either. He remained a troop. He remained my parent, the royalty of the Reich. Whenever Edgering recalls her parent, she performs so alongside charming warmth. There exists zero hints inside her recollection of the arrogant ruler or the person charged of offenses against humankind. She views merely the affectionate parent who gripped her inside his hands, recited her rhymes, and guided her toward dance lessons. My thoughts remain entirely of warmth, she might state decades subsequently. The favorite of the Third Reich, the singular youth of Reich's Marshal Hermann Göring, matured inside a universe of stone and fabric, circled by strange creatures, clothed troops, and luxurious presents, comprising a tiny copy of Sanssouci estate constructed by 500,000 German flyers. His parent Hermann Wilhelm Göring possessed remained a combat champion inside his early years. A charming and driven flying expert honored alongside the poor Lehret throughout the First Global Conflict. He gained a spot inside the spirits of numerous Germans prior to transforming into one of the bases of the National Socialist Administration. Creator of the Gestapo, top leader of the Luftwaffe, secretary of the four-year strategy, leader of the Reichstag, primary secretary of Prussia, and Hitler's picked successor. Göring gathered labels alongside the exact greed alongside which he gathered gems, outfits, robbed artwork, and feasts. His title transformed equivalent alongside surplus, showing off, and total control. Yet regarding Ed, Hermann Göring was not that. He remained the affectionate parent who titled her my golden prize, who lifted her lifted to the sky, and who sobbed whenever he noticed her regarding the final instance, split from him by protective window inside Nuremberg. The female youth did not recall the overweight, unpredictable, substance-reliant person who reached at the Mondorf jail facility alongside 16 bags. 2 of them packed alongside valuable gems and 1 alongside above 20,000 codeine tablets. She recalled the person who penned her notes inside graceful penmanship from jail, informing her he worshipped regarding her every evening. Succeeding the conflict, Ada possessed to discover to exist alongside missing. Initially arrived the collapse, the imprisonment, the relocation from the wealth of Karen Hall to a shack lacking liquid or power inside the center of sack-dilling forests. Subsequently, the hearing, the ruling, the degradation, the killing that was not suicide through poison inside chamber number 5, and subsequently the quietness, the disappearance of a title, the compelled forgetting, the humble existence inside a flat, alongside barriers, wrapped alongside household pictures and hidden recollections of a history the whole globe desired to conceal. Yet she did not overlook, neither did she reject it. I cherish my parent, and I cannot get anticipated to evaluate him whatever distinctively, she previously stated, alongside the solid tone of somebody who realizes she remains the concluding protector of an awkward recollection. Edgering did not converse openly regarding her parent once more regarding a lengthy period. She located sanctuary inside schedule, inside her labor at the eye care center, inside the meticulously selected recollections that dangled upon its barriers exactly like an unachievable to eliminate container from the history. Upon the racks of her recollection, the person who possessed remained a representation of desire, theft, and national offense toward the globe remained merely Papa. The person who raised her inside his hands, who guided her by the fingers toward dance lessons, who honored her delivery days amongst ceramic yards and honored commanders. Trips from nosy viewers and writers shrunk across the decades, yet she preserved the exact routine. She displayed the picture, the collection, the notes. Subsequently, alongside a solid motion, she sealed everything. She replied international reporters inside German, even assuming they conversed English. She was not fascinated inside satisfying them. She was not hunting compassion. She remained hunting fairness, a private, non-movable fairness that did not surface from the Nuremberg hearings or the titles of history texts, yet from the unbending reality that her parent possessed remained, at minimum regarding her, a decent person. Across the decades, he discovered to separate whatever might get stated from whatever must get kept unspoken. He occasionally referenced the notes, the blossoms, his youth. He never conversed regarding the casualties, not out of viciousness, yet out of a type of foundational refusal, a sentimental barrier built since the infancy. Inside his tale, there remained zero incinerators, zero projectiles inside the throat, zero starvation, zero railways, merely a quietness that wrapped everything. Inside the mid-70s, she returned inside certain groups of ancient partners, quietly lacking celebration. Certain still titled her Fräulein Göring, rest merely Ed. She grinned alongside the exact politeness alongside which she bid farewell toward foreigners inside her flat. She remained obvious that her existence, zero matter how standard it transformed, might never stop to get branded by a solitary phrase, family name. Exactly as an elderly lady, she declined to converse regarding passing. She merely stated inside that harsh, exact voice she possessed discovered from her mother, the history cannot get deleted, yet it must get structured. And she structured it inside her personal method alongside youth sketches, notes inside Azure Liquid, and an artwork portrait inside, which her parents still appeared unbeatable. She passed away during December 2018. Nobody from the German administration visited her burial. There remained zero formal flowers, zero notices, merely a grouping of ancient contacts, two caregivers and a Turkish lady from the structure who aided her alongside her purchases. Her headstone carried absolutely nothing aside from her title, Ejering. Absolutely nothing further, zero label, zero decorations, merely the continuous reverberation of a tale that, even though interred, proceeds to exist underneath the dirt. Inside the globe's records and study rooms, the title of Hermann Göring fills total racks. He gets examined, broken down, sentenced, a core persona inside the machine of theft, crushing, and annihilation. His heritage gets outlined by digits, statements, and hand-penned papers. Regarding scholars, the discussion remains not regarding his blame, yet regarding his placement upon the measure of terror. Yet regarding Ed, the tale remained distinct. It remained the tale of a tiny youth resting upon the leg of a person-inside outfit, circled by fiction texts, horse pictures, and golden timepieces. Her Göring was not the combat transgressor, yet the parent who sobbed whenever he noticed her speaking verse, who dropped to fasten her footwear, who mailed her notes from his jail chamber alongside sketches of creatures and blossoms. That double nature might never get solved, neither did she desire it to remain. Inside her universe, the ruling of Nuremberg did not cancel the heat of those decades. And inside the external globe, zero parent's motion might clear the organized robbing of Europe or the railways that exited from Dr. Westerborg and Rome. Ejering did not reject the realities. She dodged them. Her report remained one of a operation instead of forging, a method of shielding maybe, or of faithfulness. Her quietness remained the concluding biological link alongside a parent who, inside her personal phrases, never ceased remaining decent toward me. Upon that, at minimum, nobody might dispute her. Ed's matter was not special, yet it remained typical, since she captured the contradiction of an era branded not by whatever they executed, yet by whatever they acquired. Responsible lacking offense, carriers of a family name that conversed over whatever private motion. Inside his subsequent decades, whenever he no longer obtained guests, dialogues, or notes, his daytimes transformed tinier. Tiny strolls, the irregular faraway ring, a warm mug of brew upon a shiny desk. Yet even then, his parents' picture stayed unmoving, grand, perfect, treachery. Distinct from the youths who matured underneath the instant phantom of Nazi control, Dagmar Drexel existed a apparently calm youth, lacking controversies, lacking uncomfortable inquiries, lacking the direct burden of a notorious family name. Yet her tale remains zero lesser disastrous. It remains maybe more ruining since she did not realize, since the start, since she did not acquire the mark, yet instead uncovered it. And that finding did not arrive from admitting or a tribunal matter, or from history educated inside learning rooms. She performed it isolated, and whenever she achieved, absolutely nothing remained ever the identical. Dagmar got delivered on the 5th of February 1953, 8 decades succeeding the finish of the conflict, whenever Germany remained quickly reconstructing whatever it might and embarrassingly hiding whatever it must not recall. Her parent, Max Drexel, remained an honored educator inside Henbach, a tiny settlement of simply 5,000 citizens. He remained gentle, quiet, and highly viewed inside the society. Nobody questioned regarding his history. Nobody desired to realize. Yet Max's tale did not commence there. He got delivered during 1914 inside Berblingen into a strict Lutheran household controlled by a strong-minded mother and a law enforcement parent. He matured alongside traditional morals and an early dedication toward patriotism. At 19, he entered the Nazi group and rapidly climbed across its extremely extremist hierarchies. During 1936, he got welcomed into the SS and shortly succeeding shifted toward the safety center managed by Heydrich. There, he showed unbending compliance. He even declined a wed, assuming his partner's parent did not heal from his drinking habit, placing ethnic cleanliness prior to whatever private connections. That exact extremist ignoring guided him during 1941 toward the Eastern Line. Inside Ukraine, working alongside Einat's unit, he directed a killing squad since a peak nearby Simferopol. He observed exactly as his troops killed thousands of Jewish people, Slavs and communists, alongside a blast toward the rear of the skull beside to the tombs. He commanded numerous further to get choked. He possessed mothers gripping their youths, blasted to spare ammunition. He gained awards. He got upgraded. He subsequently traveled back to Berlin, finalized his legal education, and got named exactly as Winfried Wagner's private protector inside Broy. At residence, he remained a distinct person, or thus it appeared. Throughout the conflict, he might irregularly travel back inside his outfit, boastful and satisfied, unaware to whatever his household, and subsequently his female child, neglected or faked not to notice. At the finish of the clash, he altered his title, concealed inside the Swabian peaks, labored exactly as a grower, and endured the chase regarding combat transgressors. During 1950, whenever the hearings remained already wrapping down, he traveled back towards standard existence. Nobody informed him. Nobody double-crossed him. Dagmar matured among academy, bicycle journeys alongside her parent, and the emotion of possessing a standard household. Her mother, upon the opposite hand, could not defeat a continuous sorrow. She experienced erased, underappreciated blank. One daytime during 1959, she took a cord, uttered a quiet farewell to a companion, and marched into the forests. She never traveled back. Dagmar remained 5 years of age. Her mother had choked herself. Decades subsequently, she personally might produce the link. The exact passing her parent forced upon his casualties remained the one her mother picked to flee from him. A year succeeding, the servant relocated into the residence as the parent's partner. They wedded during 1961. The female youth envisioned of a fresh mother. Yet, whatever she discovered remained an angry, obedient lady unable of warmth. The elder sibling got dispatched to residential academy. Dagmar remained kept solitary alongside them. At 9 decades of age, existence executed another shift regarding the more terrible. His parent got detained inside Stuttgart the exact daytime he remained interring his sibling, additionally a participant of the SS. Nobody detailed anything. The authorities raided his residence. They investigated everything. Dagmar toured him inside jail. He stated he remained blameless, that he might shortly travel back. It remained a falsehood. He got freed succeeding 5 months. The accusations dropped apart. Inside the settlement, nobody uttered a phrase. Decades subsequently, Dagmar relocated inside alongside her mother's relatives. At academy, she uncovered the authentic visage of Nazism regarding the initial instance. The facilities, the killings, the casualties. Yet she did not link it alongside her parent. She could not. Her relatives, who possessed additionally remained supporters of the administration, informed her that it remained entirely overstatements, that Jewish people remained still across everywhere. It remained superior not to converse regarding it. Whenever the breezes of '68 swept throughout Germany, Dagmar entered the socialist campaign, engaged inside demonstrations, and debated at academy. Yet at residence, quietness remained an unachievable obstacle. Her parents sarcastically mocked her. "We produced a rebellion. You do not attempt." And subsequently, during 1970, he got detained once more, this instance alongside proof. The matter document remained 200 sheets lengthy, above 2,600 killings. Mothers and youth's chokings blasted inside freezing gore. Dagmar remained 17. Nobody informed her anything. During 1974, Dagmar remained 21 decades of age. Her existence spun surrounding random tasks, the finish of a short wedding, and irregular trips to her parent, who, to ignore remaining underneath a shadow of horrific charges, preserved his standard calmness. One sunrise, she escorted him toward a health meeting inside Munich. He remained more delayed than anticipated. Whereas anticipating regarding him inside the hearing chamber, she spotted he abandoned his bag unsealed. She stared at it practically unbothered. Inside remained the hearing papers. Initially, she flipped across them accidentally, yet something rapidly halted her. They remained hand-penned texts. Her parent produced them. He did not reject the charges. He fixed them. He penned exactly, "There remained not 4, there remained 8. That daytime there remained 2, not 300. The fixes remained not of format, yet of substance. The figures remained precise. Thus remained the recollections." The shock remained bodily, a surge of dizziness, his windpipe sealing, his vision blurring. There remained zero necessity regarding further phrases. It remained no longer merely the nation that remained charging him. It remained himself, his remembrance, his penmanship, his freezing nature. He deceived to everybody, to her, to fairness. And yet he never confronted it. She grabbed nurture of him again regarding a period. He remained still her parent, and that regarding currently remained adequate of a justification. She located sanctuary inside schedule, inside private issues, inside fleeing. Yet she was not the identical anymore. The tiny youth who respected him had disappeared into an unknown workspace, swapped by a lady split among two impossible-to-fix pictures, that of the affectionate parent and that of the careful executor. The hearing occurred during 1975. Dagmar viewed solely a single time inside stealth. She could not endure to hear to the observers. She could not endure to observe him perform. Her parent conceded whatever remained already impossible to deny and faked regret. He realized how to amaze. Numerous stated inside his support. The magistrate determined him responsible of at minimum 746 killings and condemned him to 20 decades. Yet his decent actions and helpful personality shrunk the ruling to 5. During 1977, he headed toward jail. By 1979, he remained liberated. He traveled back residence alongside his skull lifted. His community greeted him exactly like a sacrifice. Nobody avoided him. Nobody sentenced him. Certain even upgraded him. The genuine penalty remained regarding his female child. Dagmar wedded again. She possessed 2 youths. She attempted to construct something fresh, pure, her personal. Yet her parent continued arriving back alongside presents, alongside trips. He desired to encounter his grand youths. She permitted him inside, yet something inside her remained starting to shatter. During 1985, she encountered Derta von Westenhagen, the female child of another Nazi commander. They conversed, they wept, they split the unutterable. Dura penned a text. Dagmar consented to recount her tale underneath a fake name. It remained her initial pace toward the reality. Her household abandoned her. Her parent mailed her a cruel note, labeling her a lunatic and charging her of betrayal. She did not answer. She never noticed him again. Currently they exist a handful distance separated, yet they remain split by a gap massive than period and map. "I do not despise him," Dagmar states, "yet I no longer view him exactly as my parent. He remains a person who bore the passings of hundreds of individuals upon his spirit, and he never, not a single instance, experienced regret. Her youths do not realize yet. They remain youth. Yet one daytime they shall realize everything. She shall display them, the papers, the texts, the pictures, everything. Since whatever remains kept unspoken gets duplicated. Since quietness does not save. Since youths possess a liberty toward the reality. Dagmar exists humbly inside a residence lacking marks or pictures. She aids international households blend, educates them German, discovers them shelter, interprets papers. Her youths go to a Steiner academy shut by the Nazis throughout the conflict. It remains my method of producing repairs, she states. My tiny try to produce a distinction. Lastly, she displays a collection her parent handed her during 1983. Outfits, marches, pictures alongside Heydrich, weddings alongside hate symbols, everything meticulously marked, everything still boastful. He never altered, she states inside a weak sound. He never stated I remain apologetic. He never conceded anything. Ute, her relative, quietly escorts her. Profound inside, Dagmar desires somebody shall release her from everything this. Yet every instant she recounts it, it pains further since he never felt sorry regarding it, since he still thinks he performed the correct action. Dagmar seals the collection. Her vision remains dehydrated. Her sound, additionally. Regarding decades, I believed his level was not that elevated, that he must not exist inside a text alongside the massive transgressors. Yet one killing remains adequate. There remains zero order regarding terror. Whatever he executed remained adequate, and thus succeeding everything this, succeeding the notes, the quietnesses, the rulings, and the treacheries, there survives solely one belief. We remain unable to reverse the history, yet we might discover from it, and over everything never stay quiet once more.